All right, everyone. Thank you for your patience. We are live here in podcast number 8. Much sooner than I anticipated, but I'm happy that we can do it. Seb is our guest for podcast number 8, and we'll be talking about the sandbox and the DAO and how those two things piece together. Seb, welcome.
Thank you, Chain, for having me. And hello, everyone. Glad to be on the SandDAO podcast.
And I hope your eyes are healing okay, or is everything all right?
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for on the personal side. I had this retinal detachment, but all good. I'm still wearing sunglasses. Just nothing. Just like so, you don't get scared with my red eye. But other than
Yeah,
that, like it's recovering well, and you'll see me traveling already, like in action.
great. Great, I'm glad. So scope of the talk today is about a meet and greet. Seb and I, we've never met in person or on video yet. We've exchanged emails as myself as a landowner in Meta Worlds. But now that we've grown into the DAO, learning how things work, this is a learning opportunity. As I, among many others, we've had past podcasts with Joseph, Crafter, Andy, Hoddle. I'm going to eventually get Panda up in here. But as we've listened and learned what the community's reaction is to the Sandbox DAO, a lot of questions have formed, and this is a compilation of those questions into how things really affect us day to day as Sandbox SandFam. So that's what today is about. Uh, my name's Lanzer. Introductions. I am the podcast host of SandDAO, which is new, just like the Sandbox DAO itself is. I've been an avatar holder, landowner since about mid-season 1. So the Alpha Dragon and everything else, and I've watched it grow and learn. And I'm very excited about the Sandbox. It offers a very unique, multifaceted value proposition from artists and modelers and programmers to level designers, speculators on tokens and coins, and renting mechanics. And now we have the DAO, which brings in industry level strength and funding that comes with that sort of thing, and SIPs and proposals. So we're stressing, we're working through this as a community, what we want the DAO to be, how we want this to end up, and I'm happy and grateful to be here. And Seb, if you would please, for some of the people who don't know you and are just tuning in for the first time.
All right. Well, I see you've been very involved in the space already. You've interviewed some of like key member of SandFam, key builders, key creators. So it's great. Like I'm glad to be there today and like share with you like some of the recent updates or answer any question for the community, which you're definitely part of. So it's great to have you like representing, giving a voice, and like spreading out all the updates that we have at Sandbox.
Thank you. And if y'all don't know, for some of my community members who aren't involved in the SandFam, Seb is the COO and co-founder of the Sandbox. So a key central figure in in the Sandbox as it's been progressing since I believe 2018 is when it started out. Before that, it was a mobile. Yeah. So disclaimer: Sebastian, while Sebastian does represent the Sandbox, Lanzer, myself, I do not. I don't represent the Sandbox Game or the Sandbox Foundation. And Seb, correct me if I'm wrong, but we are not your financial or legal advisors, and nothing we say is to be taken as financial or legal advice. Truths, Seb?
Correct.
All right. We'll go right through this since we only have about half an hour to do this. For Scoreboard, SIP 7 and 8 closed last week. So SIP 8 did not pass quorum. It only reached 54%, which was surprising because SIP 7 did reach quorum, all 30 million of it, and it passed with, I believe, 87% of the vote. So congratulations to Remy. That was a great SIP. And as a landowner myself, I am looking forward to the staking rewards. Whereas the Paracity Jam, we'll be looking into that to see what we can do to reach out to more people for the next SIP. And that brings us to 7 SIPs approved, 1 SIP not approved, 8 SIPs total. And for Meta Worlds, We've submitted 4, the last one being a revenue study to learn from the 8-point DAO and to bring up how many to put together a plan for how many revenue options we can implement as individual SIPs in the future.
Great. Thanks for a few words about that. So first, the Sandbox DAO has been launched since last June and is effectively active. Like you said, we're already at SIP 7 and 8. All the 6 previous SIPs, which are like SIP standing for Sandbox Improvement Proposal, have been voted upon and adopted with a yes by a majority and reached the quorum from both the sand holder and the land owners. So it's important to definitely see like people have been actively voting and engaging across all those different SIPs. The goal for us is like to empower the creator, to give them the possibility to voice what they are, their decision, to voice like how they want the sandbox to evolve, the kind of like initiative that should be supported by the ecosystem to grow it, and to ensure that we can maintain and create a virtual world that could exist in perpetuity, even one day, only running on the decision of the community and without a core team like we have at Sandbox operating the platform. The first 3 SIPs were about like the constitution, the budget, and the team. So that's all running. 2 first SIP, 4 and 5 were about like one supporting a charity project for the Red Cross, one about acquiring carbon credit to compensate for like the emission and the impact, the environmental impact of like the sandbox, and that's been approved. SIP 6 was also approved and like was about like supporting a tool called Magic Palette developed by SandRush, a builder studio that's been very active from very first day on Sandbox community and
Pepe.
build experience. And that tool, Pepe, exactly, and it's a great tool that allows more people to make games just playing with blocks and generating from the browser, so not even installing a game client. So that's now released and keep updating and making a free tool for the community to create faster. Tip 7 was a proposal to distribute 750,000 sand over a course of a year, I think, toward the landowners if they stake their sand. So if you're a landowner and you own sand, you get extra reward distributed to you as a mechanism. We call it like retro rewards, to reward people who've been a long-term committed for a long term in the sandbox by being landowner and sand holders. It passed, meaning like you will get extra sand. So see, there's a direct benefit for you as a landowner to engage, to participate, to hold your land and to build your land. And SIP 8 was the first experiment for the first time to ask the community to vote on winners of one game jam, which was the Paris City Jam. There's a few takeaways, like people voted, but there was not enough vote to reach the quorum. So meaning maybe there's too much content for the community to review and to decide who is a winner. Or second, it's still hard for the community to be deciding on who should win or not at those game jam. Or each of the participants of the game jam maybe didn't attract enough people to vote in general within the community. So we maybe liked a bit of relaying that, like, they should encourage standholder and landowners to vote to support them. Anyway, we're going to still proceed with the distribution of reward because it would be unfair that people will not win. We'll consult the community and agree. But there's interesting takeaway, and I think like some of the upcoming action is we're going to implement a delegation, meaning soon like even
Nice.
you could transfer your voting power toward like a group, a community that would vote on your behalf. So that's something we want to launch as soon as possible, which we think will drive more impact toward like reaching quorum and having like kind of like super electors or nodes in blockchain ecosystem that represent the voice of many more individuals, smaller than owners, who might not have the time to follow on what's going on or really drive or participate in those decisions. the last thing is like, it's great you already have some proposal or discussion on the forum. As a reminder, before any proposal goes for voting as a SIP, for 2 weeks before, they are being published on the forum on sandboxdao.com, where anyone can participate, ask questions, challenge them, and the person who submitted the proposal should answer as transparently as possible about their motivation, their goals, how they're going to execute it, and why you should vote in favor.
Right. Thank you. And while you were explaining that, I zoomed in on the scoreboard and we looked at the SAL, the proposal itself on snapshot while you were talking. So if for those of you watching through video and not through the podcast itself, please take a look at those things and you can see in depth how those SIP 7 and 8 earned the vote and didn't earn the vote, and then the SIP process as Seb was just speaking to. The next
Okay.
one, we did this one, the Sandbox DAO checkbook. So as of SIP 7 passing, that brings us to 1.9 million sand expended out of the 15.5 million sand budget. So that brings us to 13% that we've allocated towards SIPs so far. That brings us now to the discussion. Okay, Seb, I've been dying to ask. But what I found out, so my first question was, the DAO was part of the white paper since 2020. Joseph Crafter and I spoke about this in our podcast one. What triggered its creation in 2024 versus 2020? And I realized when last week I was listening to your Edge of NFT podcast with Cyril, I think you revealed why that was. And here's what you said. We want to make sure we have had the right number of experiences and monetization ready before we launch the DAO, and trying to decentralize too early and not having that VAL present when the DAO was created would have hurt us if we had tried to do this before. Does that capture what that question is geared toward?
I think it does. Like the essence is saying like we're looking at progressive decentralization. It has always been part of the white paper to launch over 5 years timeline like a DAO and like to allow the community to participate progressively. But to do efficient governance, you need to have in place tools. You have to have in place a real product. And Sandbox has evolved a lot between 2020 and today. It's a full-fledged platform which is open for publishing, so people can launch an experiment on their own on the land, which have like creation tools with system like NFT gating and others that allows the creators to monetize, which have like one of the largest and most decentralized community of owners for the landowners with over 27,000 unique landowners. So a lot of things that I believe and have a lot of experiences live on the map, over 1,000 events that launch and season that launch. So great content, example of what can be done on the platform. So I believe it's way different to launch governance when something is still very theoretical, still doesn't have a much product, doesn't have like a massive adoption, and let people decide what can be done with it, and launch it like we've done now after almost 4 years of operating the platform, launching partnership, collaboration, events, land sales, and having various community of brands, 400 major brands around the world, 27 landowners who are involved in that project, an ecosystem of 200 plus builder studios as well. We've set the cap, we've set the example, we've demonstrated the core value that as a community, as a platform, we stand for. Support for inclusivity, for diversity, for environment, giving out to charities and inventing a play to give, inventing learn to earn model, having top brand launch on Sandbox and give out rewards. All of that are things that if we were entirely relying on the DAO to execute, I don't think we would have such a level of commitment and engagement before. And we've seen that, unfortunately, with other virtual world projects who decentralized very early on and never had such level of traction or brand involvement or participation in their DAO. Whereas
Got it.
Sandbox, through this progressive system, has kind of like a parent is educating their young children until they become the teenager and until they turn up into the grown-up women and men that can make their own decision, and hopefully decision that are well thought, and will allow them to thrive in the future without their parents. So I see it really that way.
Okay. Yeah. And so back in 2018 and even 2020, you frequently mention now, and you did back in early July with the Play to Earn podcast, that we have over 1,000 experiences that are live, over 330,000 creators, over 100,000 monthly active users, and now is the time to make that offering to the this decentralization of the DAO. All right, makes sense.
Yes.
Okay, and so jumping right in now to your role in the DAO, what activities and tasks do you do personally for the DAO?
As you know, I'm the co-founder and CEO of the Sandbox on one side, and on the other side, the DAO has its own separate entity, separate management, and separate council of five members, which include Yatsu, the chairman of Animoca Brand,
Hmm.
Shannon Snow, the CEO of World of Women, Jean-Michel Paillon, an ex-executive at Ledger and now founder of Graph Capital, and Frederic Montagnon, who is like a serial entrepreneur, investor, and Web3 investor, and myself. So my main role, first of all, is to be a council member, which like participates in like promoting the DAO in general, encouraging people to participate either in voting or submitting proposals, encouraging conversation, representing the DAO and promoting it globally, and also reviewing the different SIPs before they are going toward like the in their process to be published for voting, to ensure not just that the SIP is I think like is to ensure that the SIP contains all the right level of information so people can make the decision. So we are not taking the decision on behalf of the community, but we need to make sure, using our own respective experience, that the SIP will detail how it will be executed, who is the team behind, what kind of experience that team had before, and can guarantee that they are the right people to do the right execution, that the budget that they're requesting to the community is actually relevant, because we don't want to waste people time to vote. If someone tells you, I need $1 million to run a presence at a conference, we will tell you, no, this doesn't make sense. We've seen it before. With a budget less than 10K, you can do something great. So why do you need so much money for them? Being simple that because not everyone in the community has been an entrepreneur or has a level of knowledge to ask all those questions, we participate into those pre-diligence questions. Also, we are strategizing like how we prioritize certain SIP, how we develop certain features like delegation, hearing from the community itself, and how we encourage more and more SIPs around the world. Here today, I'm in Korea. I'm encouraging like people to propose SIPs around like education and academy program here, and other community-driven initiatives. And I do that in every region of the world where Sandbox has already some community, so we can have more um, decentralized leadership emerging to drive forward. And it's going to take time, but it's important that also the DAO has some public faces. In this case, not the founding members, but the council members and the advisors that they can refer to, that they can invite to come to talk on podcasts like today, that they uh, that they know like represent the DAO in general. And
Okay.
my role
Yeah.
is limited in time. So by the constitution, I'm only here for 1 year unless I'm re-elected, meaning that anyone in 1 year or even less eventually can submit their uh, via SIP. They can be candidates. They will have to explain what their program, what they're going to do, how they're going to achieve it, what kind of support or budget they need. and how eventually they will do better than the current people in charge. So I'm not here forever, uh, and I wish I will do the best to serve the interests of the community and the DAO here.
Yeah, and it seems like you travel everywhere. You're like in a different country every week, Seb. I don't know how you do it.
Now it's a bit of a legend. I'm traveling, it's true, but not every week. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I've read the Constitution, I've read the articles of incorporation and the memorandum of incorporation, and there were a lot of powers and duties ascribed to your position as the person who is almost like the chair of the special council. What when you have the meetings, first of all, how often are special council meetings held?
So we are submitting like every 2 weeks. There's a bunch of new SIP that are going either live or are being every week. They are reviewed and posted on the forum. So then they go into their 2 week discussion period on the forum and then 2 week voting period. So we try to have like weekly conversation, at least in a written form or physical meetings. For example, last week, Shannon Snow came to the Sandbox Paris office and we had some conversation. Sometimes I get a chance to meet other council members physically, like at city and so on. But we try to at least reconvene one or twice weekly in a form of like conversation or meetings.
Okay, so you try to meet together either virtually or in person once or twice weekly?
Mhm.
Okay. Wow.
But not with everybody. Like it depends.
Okay.
Like basically, because it's just 5 members and we're all in different time zone or traveling. It's
Mhm.
probably difficult to have like the formal. But we do have like the weekly updates with the whole team that's being shared, and like we do have those conversations around certain SIP that we were on before they are actually being submitted for discussion and voting.
Okay, so you have weekly updates as a whole council, and then you every 2 weeks you review SIPs that come into you for the redundancy, legality, vision check?
Yes.
Okay.
Now
Great.
that will adapt based on the volume of SIP as well, like the complexity of some of them, and so
Great.
on.
Okay, well, I've submitted 4 of them, so you'll be seeing my name a lot.
Mhm.
And I have 18
Yes.
more that our team's gonna be putting out there, so, we come prepared.
Wow, they're very prolific. Okay, like some work ahead for discussing them. Yep.
Yeah, I have a business and proposal writing background and contract negotiation background, so I love the idea of the DAO and what we can do to build as a community. And I'm a landowner avatar, so I am in this to to help the sandbox and do my part, just like everyone else will. So I'm excited. The
That's
DAO is great.
me too. Like one thing, like I think, like really works well, and for DAOs in general, is to really highlight how it will drive an impact for Sandbox as a platform or back to the community. Many people tend to really have a position that's a little bit too selfish. Whenever you submit a proposal, never think like what it can do for you, but what can you do for the community, for the
SandFam.
ecosystem. SandFam, yes. And like why it's never about asking for a grant. Like it's also quite interesting. Maybe I don't say it enough. Like the DAO is not a charity. It's not just
Mm,
giving grants. If the DAO give you something, it's more a loan or like something like how can you give it back so the DAO can continue funding someone else and someone else and some projects. So we try as well. Our role as a council is to remind people like you're doing something with a purpose, with a clear goal, and hopefully if there is a financial return, you should think of like how you give a portion back, if not entirely, but let's say at least a portion back to the DAO so it can fund future projects. Right now, the DAO runs with a 25 million SAN budget provided by the sandbox and part of the white paper, but it will need to be sustainable. So we also think like how we can create everlasting cash flow and revenue through the initiative. And that's, in my opinion, something that not a lot of DAO always think about. And we've seen some now starting to run out of budget and think, oh, now we have to readjust. We've been spending too much without that concern. And one of the reasons why we waited a bit as well ourselves to see how other DAOs perform.
Yeah, absolutely. The DAO expects you to deliver something that will benefit the ecosystem. And my first two
Right?
sips, by the way, are $0
Yes.
sips. So they're something that we've
Good.
been wanting for a long time, like custom resolutions and window sizing, so that as I'm doing stuff in Game Maker and Vox Editor, I can have my windows resized so I can have all my other windows open. Whereas right now you can't do that. You can't like move things around, so you can have productivity across multiple screens. And then an in-game equipment filter, so I can choose a power or a sword or a only things that are above 50 power or speed or
Love
whatever.
that.
So those are my sips.
Product
Just the first two.
improvement. Love it. Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, right now Cyril said they're undergoing an impact assessment with your team to understand how long
Mhm.
it would take and all that. So yeah, absolutely. The DAO expects us to deliver. So that is exactly what I want to do. So when you're having these special council meetings, how do they unfold? It's like when you open up the meeting, and then what happens? Do you have like pleasantries, and then you talk about the sips of the day, or how does it go?
Yes. Well, generally speaking, we follow what's happening in the ecosystem. We share some news because also some of us are a part of like the ApeCoin DAO, for example, or
Yeah.
Mochaverse DAO, and so on. So we look at what works, what doesn't work, how we can be adapted. Um, we then discuss some topics that are being brought to our attention, like because the DAO has also some advisors that specialize in certain areas like music education, sustainability and environment, women empowerment, Asia versus rest of the world. Like they are based in different regions of the world. I mean, so some are more in Asia, some are more in other parts. We also redirect or engage the right advisors to support it or to have their inputs as well. We try to discuss sometimes um, what we should put as a position. For example, SIP7, even though it was voted positively, the council has a neutral position. And the committee was like, why do we have a neutral
Yes, I
position
did ask
on
that
it?
question. Why was that neutral?
Good question. Because, like, basically, the SIP is about the sandbox deciding to give more money towards community of landowners, and so um, we, of course, if we wrote the SIP, so our intention is for it to get approved. But if we were saying already the council is also voting, we're going to vote yes, there might be some conflict of interest, etc. So they say we the
I
sandbox is the
see.
one that writes the SIP. The council, as a separate entity, has reviewed it and is neutral because he doesn't want to. We don't know if the amount proposed by Sandbox is enough, not enough, but we feel like it's still good in this state. So let's have the community discuss it, and like we didn't want to show that we are colluded, the two of us,
Got it.
like again, like we are separate. And that was myself, I would say, let's vote positive, but the rest of the council said, no, let's be neutral. And so that's what prevailed.
See that's fascinating. That's the sort of stuff that I wanted to hear. Is when we saw neutral, we thought almost. I thought almost the opposite, because the first five were positive, right? So that was like the standard, and then neutral. It's like, oh my gosh, what's going on with this one? Remy put it out, so he's a sandbox guy. So what's going on with that? So we were very confused.
Well, you see, like it's not that obvious. So maybe we miscommunicated why neutral, but if it's something submitted by the sandbox itself, and now like the constitution was established before, the other SIP were not by sandbox itself. So that's why I guess like the position is a SIP coming from sandbox itself cannot have the DAO vote in favor of sandbox already. So neutral means like make your own opinion.
Got it. Got it. Got it. And so then what does positive mean? If neutral is make your own
Well,
opinion, what's
positive is
positive?
like, well, of course, it's make your own opinion, but like we as the council think like it will really be beneficial toward like the sandbox and its ecosystem for like because it aligned with the core value, it aligned in terms of budget, in terms of like
Okay.
performance it can drive on the deliverable. And it's not promoting something we're pushing ourselves, it's something coming
Got
from
it.
external community members.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate you clarifying that. That's very helpful. All right, let's jump
So one
to
day, right now, we don't have like negative or not recommended. This might happen. And right now, there's still an early stage of the DAO. We are still in a phase where everything that goes to SIP is being discussed and being reviewed with some sort of like conversation with Cyril, our head of DAO, recommendation, iteration, and so on. There might be a stage in the future when anyone can write a SIP directly, have it on the forum, and pass it without having even like recommendation for us. We are still in this case. We say, look, we didn't had a lot of iteration with the person that proposed a SIP. We see something that doesn't make sense. Our position is be careful, but we will never oppose or prevent people from voting and expressing their rights here to decide. Instead, we are giving a recommendation.
got it. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate you sharing that. What do you want to achieve before the special council elections in December of next year? What do you want to achieve, Seb?
Well, I think like I want to like relaunch the first phase of the DAO by June. It's really kicking off. It's learning and educating people about like what does it mean to have a voice and what's a democracy in a digital nation, virtual world, how the community can get involved. I think with system like delegation and like learning how people interact, we'll see more and more traction. My goal is to see many community leaders emerge. So they run their own activities, they run their own events. We have many more podcasts covering Sandbox. We have many more
Yeah.
education hubs that promote Sandbox. We even have a lot of things that were run by the Sandbox team itself now being handed over by the community. Presence at events, booth, sponsorship, all of that should ultimately move to the DAO and run by the community itself. Even the idea that Sandbox presence in a country or a region or a market shouldn't necessarily be the Sandbox team, but should be the Sandbox community-led effort with someone that's not a Sandbox employee one day coming up and say, I want to promote Sandbox in my country, in my market, to bring creators, to bring brand, bring players. So the ultimate evolution, I guess, of the DAO is like we described, giving the players and the creators full autonomy to run this world, to take the decision, the reward, the player status, the features roadmap, the ecosystem initiative, and so on. And I guess before the end of the year, having already in place more community leadership, podcast, delegation, and identifying key leaders in among the SandFam that want to stand up and drive forward this decentralization.
Awesome. Awesome. I know there are already people who have started to do that, like Joseph Crafter. I would love to be counted among them and earn that right as well. But they're already
Mhm.
starting to emerge, and I love it. I absolutely love it. If you have a podcast and you want to run a podcast, just open it up. It there's no competition here. It's just us all creating more for the Sand Fam. That's that's the way to go. Okay, so you wanna
Yes.
relaunch the first phase of the DAO by June, launch delegations, see community leaders emerge. see more podcasts and sponsorships and hand things over to the community. All right. Nope, makes sense. And you mentioned earlier about the endowment, so the $25 million, 25 million sand that was given to the DAO. How many years do you expect TSB to continue giving that 25 million sand to the DAO?
Ideally, for as long as possible. Right now, it's already planned for 3 years, I think, on budget. And then the goal is
Wow.
progressively will become more and more self-sustainable and even have more budget available one day than this through like the activity on the platform, through the voting of the community, and through um, if the project supported by the DAO has been fruitful in driving revenue, like some could lead to more funding for the DAO itself.
And do you ever foresee an instance where the DAO would give back to the sandbox? Say it's earning a lot of revenue, and would the sandbox accept something from the DAO?
I think it can be interesting. Right now, the sandbox has the cash flow to operate with the team, has done the fundraise. Recently, we added $20 million, pushing our valuation toward $1 billion.
And congratulations on that, by
We
the way.
enough.
$1 billion valuation. That was excellent. And whereas before it was 500
That,
million 2 years ago, right?
correct. So that's a validation of all the milestone achievement, partnership, growth, number of experienced creators on the platform we achieved in 2 years lifetime. The it's not impossible, I would say, that the DAO driving all initiative would decide one day, let's assign a budget to the core team to build, develop the platform and achieve certain milestone based on the roadmap decided by the players and the creators themselves. Right now, it's the configuration is not necessarily the sandbox has its own budget, is funded, has good runway, and so on. But in the future, maybe in 10 years, in 20 years, in a fully decentralized world, that's how we envision it would run. Like having the team in charge of developing the platform and the tool of the platform being actually funded by the foundation that operate the overall ecosystem of that platform.
It's a bold vision, Seb. It's a bold vision. Oh man, yeah, the revenue option SIP that I just proposed a few days ago, it was that I've been in contact with Deloitte and Accenture and Open Campus and New Campus to assemble a team of experts like tokenomists, economists, and blockchain experts and business finance to put together a realistic sequence of revenue options that would give revenue back to the DAO, or at least earn the DAO revenue. That's the plan, at least. So, yeah, and I learned that by listening to Bulls on the Block and the Mochaverse Halls by G, and hearing how those ApeCoin DAO members are like, oh my gosh, we're spending so much money and we're not getting money back into the DAO. And so that's what this is all about. This is to head that off now while we're young, to start earning revenue, or at least finding ways that we can build realistic revenue back to the DAO so that we now have more to do with.
But I'm really glad that you are actually very interested and caring on the topic. Again, like the best way for people to be involved is to care deeply about like not only the different project initiative, but how the DAO can continue existing and then become self-sustaining. So raising those questions is important.
Yeah, and listening to Joseph, I think it was podcast 2 or 3, he mentioned how he ballparked about how many millions of sand it took for the sandbox to operate, and he was worried that it was burning like 8 million sand equivalent a year, and would the DAO need to come to the rescue one day to bring that revenue back and assign a budget back? And that's what really started the wheels turning. And then when I heard the stuff about the ApeCoin DAO members saying we're spending too much and we're not getting enough back, that's like, all right, we need to do this. We need to think
think
about it now.
Well, I think it's a question that we've always had, and that's why one of the first things that the DAO launched, when you go to sandboxdao.com website, you see the budget transparently, how it's being spent by different pools, and like what's left for this year, how much has been spent, where, and so on. Like giving full transparency or budget is as important as like voting and approving those initiatives.
Yeah. And I was showing them right now as you were talking the allocation per category and the dashboard on
Mhm,
the Sandbox DAO website.
mhm.
Absolutely, and that's part of what the DAO checkbook we went over a little bit earlier was a real time accounting of those dollars. Because I am very much into sustainability. I don't want us to burn all of our money and be like, well, where did it go? So that's yep,
Right.
cool. So you frequently say the culture capital of the metaverse. What is it that you want to see out of the DAO to where you say, or the sandbox to where you say, that's it, we've arrived, we are the cultural capital of the metaverse?
Well, I wish there was such like one final stage where like, hey, it's over, we've done it, etc. For me, no, culture is something that's constantly evolving. Like new trends emerge, something that used to be cool, 1 year later is no longer cool. A new form of content, new creativity is infinite. And like by empowering more people to express their imagination, to express their creativity with our no-code tool and with the initiative of the DAO, we're
Hmm.
going to see constantly an influx of ideas, constant a renewal of new cool, new thing that we never thought about, uh, new vertical that has being addressed where like Sandbox as a solution can tap into empowering people, not just in fashion, in sport, in music, in gaming, in entertainment, but who knows, all the ways around. And it's hard to say like it's something that's finished. We've reached at one point and it's over. No, we have to be constantly relevant with culture. How we stay relevant in people's mind about what we do, what kind of activation we do, and I wish like that's what makes Sandbox exciting. Like maybe coming back to Sandbox in 2 years, in 5 years from now, you will get a different user experience, more immersion, exciting new social feature, very different content. We already see that as well. Like if you played Sandbox Alpha Season 1 or 3 years ago, and today it's so different. And sometimes my frustration is like people don't see how much it's improved, how it's different, how there's all these gameplay rules, logic, fun, rewards, so many brands that launch different things. While 2 years ago it was, let's say, more limited in
Yeah.
all the
Yeah.
possibilities.
Yeah. Now it's come a long, long way. So I understand now why you waited until now to start the DAO process, where we have that
Yeah,
offering, that solid foundation with which to build off of. Whereas before 2 years ago, when we first started, I can understand how that wouldn't have evolved or it flourished to the extent that we are right now.
yeah.
Well, yeah. Is there anything from the DAO that you think would contribute to that culture capital of the metaverse?
Yeah, I think so. I think like we can see people who already run want to submit a year-long proposal for covering Sandbox, representing Sandbox at various events around the world. We're seeing people who want to launch game jams around certain topics. We're seeing people who want a Sandbox to be involved in supporting like movies or other projects as well. Like because of that, I think like it will help Sandbox to drive, but it will help to drive constantly like new relevant cultural project, new activation that and make that position Sandbox as a gaming platform, UGC and metaverse in general as like a solution that helps to engage people, that helps people to be more creative, that drive them into like all form of interaction that they've not seen on other platforms.
Yeah. Yeah, no, okay. So the way we could do that is by by representing the sandbox around the world, being authorized by the SIPs to perform those functions. Okay, no, that makes sense. Hmm. I'm very encouraged by this conversation, Seb. I'm glad that we got the chance to speak. I only have about 2 questions left, and you
Okay.
you've said you said you and Cyril have mentioned frequently, and you said today, you want to get to the point where you've transitioned power and responsibility to the community. And you and Cyril have spoken frequently on what that might look like where there might not even be a sandbox company running the show, running the development. It might end up being the DAO. What would do you need to see before you feel that comfortable doing that and that the DAO is ready?
I'm an entrepreneur. I'm very hands-on person. We very detail attention focused to the product, to the
You and me
delivery,
both.
and we shipped so many products over years. Like since I've been an entrepreneur, I delivered multiple games project, collaboration. I also in Sandbox like ship so many updates and milestone of the product and the different product of the platform. I guess like we will reach a stage where we feel like there might not even be a sandbox team and platform, a team in charge of a platform. Ultimately, either the day we will have open source everything and we'll have people that can continue the development and shipping release regularly, or we've seen that we've uh, like the platform can continue on its own without actually us being the only contributor. That's really, I feel like, where you reach out. Our model is probably open source development in this case, where you have some project that can totally run only on contribution from a few developers in a community, but are not paid by a company and so on, and still like they ship major updates. And maybe the foundation has a few engineers and people as well as part of it. It's never been seen before in gaming.
You're right.
Even
This
games
has
like
never been
Minecraft
done,
are no
Seb. It's
longer open
bold.
source. So it's bold. It's a long-term vision if everything runs well, but we're not too idealistic. It's something just to be careful about. Like again, like
Right.
I'm very hands-on, very down to earth on many aspects. We're so attached to details when we ship things. So let's do step by step, and hopefully encouraging people to participate, attracting the right profile to care and be involved on those aspects will help toward that goal.
I think after watching almost 20 hours of you doing podcasts and different seminars, I think it's very obvious how much you care. It's super obvious just how much you want this to succeed and how you want this to be a realistic transfer, not just some hopeful charity where, oh, let's just see what happens. No. You I really enjoy. I think that's awesome, Seb. I think that's awesome.
Thank you. But we strive for the goal. It's still early on, but with support from you and landowners and people who are committed in the space, that, like I hope this will become with turn reality.
Yeah, and I say frequently to people who ask me like, "What is the sandbox?" It's it is the one of the first things I've seen that has a multi variable value proposition. It's not just you're a gamer. It's you've got land ownership, you've got Vox edit, so your artists and your designers. You've got game maker, which is your level designers. You have your token speculators, you trading off of sandbox token. Now you have the DAO, which are your business people and your entrepreneurs and your industry experts. Like you've got so many different things converging on the sandbox that I think
Mhm.
it's only a matter of if Seb, it's only a matter of when, Seb, not if, that this takes hold and starts really surpassing its counterparts like Roblox, Decentraland. I think we're already past that one, but we start reaching those heights when things start opening up and enabling all of these types of people to get together. Last question. This one from Little Legion in the chat. Do you think we can use the DAO SIP funding to start up regional tournaments for an esports league for our game? And this one hits close to me because I used to be involved in like an esports podcast back in the day and all that sorts of stuff. And what do you think about that?
I think once we reach a certain quality of gameplay of 3C, like we enable multiplayer competition, people, for example, in first-person shooter, like we have like a very precise control on avatar shooting mechanism, and this enables skill-based gameplay at a much more expert level at right now. This would definitely be possible. Over the last year, over the last 12 months, the sandbox has progressed a lot, adding rule system, adding a lot of behaviors, components, and rules that are multiplayer, adding score leaderboards showing best time on the map and on the victory screen. Having resource. Soon we'll have persistency, we'll have even more capabilities on the avatar, like jumping, flying, and so on. All of that will enable a level of like gameplay that enables competitive.
Uh-oh. Did he freeze on me like he did you all? Is he frozen? He looks frozen to me. Oh no. Uh-oh. He spilled too many beans. Seb, you there? Oh dear. We'll just sit here and wait. He's got the you know the he's got the pose. Man, this has been a great conversation. Oh my gosh. Okay, he left for a moment. Let's see if we can get him back in. But he this has been a great conversation. I really wanted to know some of these things that he was speaking to. We'll see if we can't bring him back in here. Oh, now am I Seb? Yeah, I see that now. But he revealed a lot of stuff that I kept hearing. Things like Crafter, Candidly Kristen, and Hoddle spoke about, and Andy Ritchie spoke about, and Joseph. Just things that we've been wondering about, didn't know, and now here he goes. Just told us. There, he's back. So we're just bragging on you, Seb. Go ahead.
Running out of 5G for a bit.
That's okay.
Yes, good. So
Yeah, you were just talking about how you wanted to make sure that we had the jumping, fighting mechanics, and the
yeah.
consistency
Very, very
ready,
important. Yes,
ready before we
right.
do the esports leagues.
Absolutely. Like right now, Sandbox is still more perceived and probably the tool we provide for casual gaming. Uh, it will keep improving over time to enable, hopefully, to reach a level of player experience and skill-based competitive gameplay that allows for more competition.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. No, that makes sense. Okay, okay, that would be our last question. Let's roll into future episodes. You know, Seb, we
Mhm.
got through all those questions. I know we're gonna have more in the future, so I'd love to do a part two when we have more of these sorts of consolidated viewpoints. But you have thank
Mhm.
you for being so open and flexible with your time to where we could just do it right now.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah, love it. Love it. I'm going to go ahead and hit the raid button on someone else. And last one for Sandcaster. So you're an educator from SG. I use VE and GameMaker not only to teach the sandbox framework, but also to use it for lessons such as logic, math, and design. Can I tap on the DAO available for me to build a pedagogy to train young children in the region around. Yes, Sandcastler, you can do that right now. You can submit a SIP that could request funding. There's already a SIP sort of like it, but not the same thing. And you might also look up Megan and Mokachi from Open Campus and New Campus, who are looking to do the same thing. And I've been looking to find a way to partner with them, like I'm in the revenue options. If you partner with them on the educator side, that is exactly what they're looking for. And they're looking for other partners other than the 8 Point DAO. So, yes, absolutely, you could do that in the areas around STEM, like you mentioned. I'm sorry, Seth, did you have anything else you want to add to that?
Nothing on my side. Again, like thank you so much. Let's have regular updates. Let's look at educating more about the different SIP, what the right way to submit yours, how to engage and encourage the community to participate into the SIP, and hopefully get them like supported because we always need to reach the quorum to get them passed on. And happy to answer all the questions. Feel free to reach out to us on the forum, on social media, on Twitter, and yeah, like the different community members and fan member like Shane today. We'll be opening soon an ambassador program as well, where like more people will be involved. So stay tuned about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I Cyril mentioned that maybe I should join the ambassador program, and I'm sure that it's open to everyone else as well. Would you see that it as a conflict of interest if I went or others went for the ambassador program, but were interested in being nominated for the special counsel in the future? Do you see that as a conflict of interest, like you mentioned earlier about the neutral
I don't
positive?
see it. So on the opposite, like the best way to actually be a candidate for a council role is actually to prove what you've done for the sandbox community. What are the result, the action you've done, and the result of their action, so that people can entrust you even more with more responsibility. So I
Okay.
see it as a great one step forward, progressively, actually, to acquire more greater responsibilities held by the support of the community in the DAO.
Okay. Great. That makes me feel better. I've been wrestling with that the past few days, and I don't like conflicts of interest. Kind of like how you alluded to with the positive and the neutral thing. It's undue influence, and it just it makes messy of the due process of
Mm.
voting, and I don't know. But I'm glad.
Yep.
Thank you for saying that, Seb. Thank you for your time. Merci, merci beaucoup. My French is
Merci beaucoup.
terribly miserable, but thank you
It's
so
good.
much
It's
for your
good.
time. And I will definitely be reaching out again when I feel that we have a number of questions ready for you again. And love
Absolutely.
what you do. Big fan. Thank you for being so motivating and encouraging.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone, and see you soon in Sandbox and on the DAO. Cheers. Thanks,
Cheers.
Shane.
Alrighty.